The first mistake: living someone else's life. An old man named Artem sat on a bench in the city park. He came here every day, for years now, to watch the children play, the couples walk by, and life move on, without him. A quiet weariness lingered on his face. His hands held a cane as if it were the last thread keeping him connected to this world. Artem wasn't poor. He wasn't sick. His body still held strength, and his mind remained clear, but his soul, it had withered. The inner fire that once burned within him had gone out, not because of age, but because he had never truly lived as himself. He had spent his life trying to meet the expectations of others. I was a good son, he told himself, a loyal husband, a responsible worker, but I was never me. The Stoics say life is short. Don't waste it living someone else's. But Artem had learned this too late. His father wanted him to become an engineer, so he did. His wife wanted a calm, predictable life, and he gave it to her. His boss wanted an obedient employee, and Artem complied silently. All his life, he served the desires of others, forgetting his own. Now, in his twilight years, he looked back and saw a life that resembled a beautifully staged play. But he was never the protagonist, only a supporting actor. Stoic wisdom: be yourself. The world may never applaud you for it, but your soul always will. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Stay true to your nature. It knows better than any opinion outside of you." And Seneca added, "There is nothing more tragic than living someone else's life and dying without ever knowing who you were." Artem realized this only when time had run out. But you still have time. In Artem's life, there was one close friend, Oleg. Their friendship dated back to childhood. They had grown up in the same yard, served in the army together, and studied at the same institute. But over the years, something had changed. Oleg began to use Artem. Constant favors, manipulations, emotional pressure. When Artem had something good, Oleg belittled it. When Artem faced hardship, Oleg disappeared. Yet Artem endured. He endured because we've been friends since childhood. Because you can't just cut someone off. Because he's not always like this. It's just his nature. Artem would excuse Oleg's toxic behavior. I'm not perfect either, so I tolerate it. But that was the mistake. Tolerating toxic people is like drinking poison every day and hoping your body learns to adapt. Seneca once said, "Show me who you spend your time with, and I will tell you who you are." The people around us are mirrors, and if those mirrors reflect jealousy, resentment, and devaluation, we gradually become like them. Stoicism teaches that your inner peace is your responsibility. Poisonous relationships destroy not just your mood, they corrupt your character. Artem recalled dozens of moments when he stayed silent instead of drawing a boundary, when he allowed himself to be convinced of things that clashed with his nature, when he smiled through a fence, thinking, "It's easier this way." Now, in old age, he remembered Oleg with bitterness, not because of betrayal, but because he had allowed that person to stay in his life for so long. Stoic wisdom: you don't owe anyone your peace just because you've known them for years. Connections that poison your soul must be severed, without guilt. Part 3. Mistake 3. Living in the past. Artem often fell asleep thinking about what he hadn't done, what he hadn't said to his father before he died, that he didn't take the risk to move to another country when he had the chance, that he never opened the business his heart dreamed of. And each of these thoughts gnawed at him, like water wearing down stone. The past is like a book you've already read. You can revisit favorite pages, you can analyze, but you cannot rewrite the ending. The Stoics say, everything that happened had its reason, and everything that didn't happen was also meant to be. When you live in the past, you're not really living at all, because life only happens now, in this very moment, and it is now that you have the power to act. Old age is not a time for regret, it's a time for acceptance. Artem learned to say to himself, "That was then. I did what I could. Now, I do what I can." Stoic wisdom: the past is a lesson, not a prison. Mistake 4. Living for others' approval. In his youth, Artem lived for praise, for his mother's approval, for colleagues' respect, for a woman's admiration. And every time he didn't get it, he felt empty. We live in a world where approval has become a currency. Likes, compliments, titles, but Stoicism teaches, there is only one opinion that matters, your own. Marcus Aurelius wrote, your happiness lies in actions aligned with nature, not in the applause of the crowd. Old age is when you either live as a free person, or remain a slave to others' expectations. And Artem realized, the best things in his life happened when he did what he knew was right, not what others would praise. Stoic wisdom. True freedom is being yourself, even when no one is clapping. Mistake 5. Losing the ability to enjoy the simple things. With age, we begin to believe happiness is something big. A trip, money, a title. But the Stoics taught the opposite. Happiness is in a hot cup of tea, the warmth of sunlight, the chance to watch a sunset. In silence, Artem chased the grand for years, but only when he was left with nothing. No job, no status, no noise, did he suddenly notice the smell of rain on the earth, the pleasure of breathing after a nap, the deep joy of a simple conversation with a neighbor. Old age is when time is no longer wasted, and if you don't learn to enjoy the small, you'll always feel deprived. Stoic wisdom. He who is grateful for little will never be poor. Mistake 5. Abandoning your path in search of external validation. As a person ages, they often begin to wonder whether their life's path was the right one. And the biggest trap here is the desire for confirmation from others. Will my children approve? Will my friends say, well done? Will society recognize my accomplishments? This need for external validation is deeply unstoic. A Stoic does not act for applause. He follows his inner compass. And in old age, more than ever, it is vital to return to oneself. Not to ask, did I live the right way? But to ask a different question, did I live by my principles? Seneca wrote, virtue does not need a reward. It is its own reward. Inner silence, the greatest gift of old age. Stoicism in old age is the ability to listen to silence. Because in silence, the true voice of reason speaks. There is no panic, fear, or rush, only clarity. Real freedom is not in doing everything you want, but in not being enslaved by what you don't need. Old age is not the end. It is a point of clarity. If you have lost years, they are not lost. They were part of the path, and a Stoic always knows, the path is more valuable than the destination. True Stoic wisdom doesn't lie in avoiding mistakes. It lies in never allowing any of them to pull us away from our true nature. In old age, we finally have the chance, not just to remember who we are, but to be it fully, without masks, without fear, without expectations, just to be.